Hello, John.
Hello, mate. How are you? All right?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New
Yes.
Year.
Happy New Year.
It's 2025. We might actually go to Scottish Summit this year, although, is it this year or is it next year?
No, it's next year.
It's next
this
year.
This is South Coast. South Coast this
Well,
year.
we'll definitely be at South Coast, so we haven't got an excuse for that, have we?
Yeah, mate. Yeah. We don't need a passport to go to Southampton or Farnborough, wherever it is.
It's Farnborough. It won't be Southampton again, don't think. John, how was your Christmas?
My Christmas was pretty good. Yeah, spent with the in-laws. It's pretty good. He was pretty well behaved. So yeah. Had a good time. Yeah. And what about yours? Was yours good?
Yeah, mine was good. So little one's able to open presents himself now. So all of his presents got opened within about 45 minutes. He went to town on his presents, and then he had to open up the presents that me and the wife bought each other as well. So
nice.
Yeah, he did a lot of unwrapping. It was over very quickly, but no, it's great when they're that age. He's 3. It's a lot more magical, right?
Yeah.
And I think when you there's a sort of like a period, I guess, when I didn't have kids and the magic of Christmas was kind of like a little bit lost.
Yeah.
It's definitely come back now with kids. So
yeah, it's great, isn't it? And you can get really involved in it. I mean, and Santa's real, of course.
Oh, of course, yeah. But that's actually, you know what, that's an interesting thing we contended with, and I never really thought about it before. But he's terrified of Father Christmas. But not necessarily of Father Christmas, because we did meet Father Christmas a few times, but it's the thought of Father Christmas coming into the house. Which it makes sense.
Like a stranger.
A stranger coming into the house in the middle of the night. Like, actually, when you think about it, that's it. That's a bit off, isn't it?
And we're feeding him.
Yes, and his reindeer.
So what happened with Jack then? Is he all right now?
He's fine. So we contacted Father Christmas and said that Father Christmas, could you please leave the presents outside the house, and Dad will go down early in the morning and bring them in so they don't get cold and wet. And that's how we did it. That's how we did it. And he was fine with that. Actually, it was quite interesting because we were potty training at the time as well, and it kind of interfered with that, because at one point he thought Father Christmas had come up through the toilet, so he didn't want to sit on the toilet.
My God. Yeah. That's not good.
But yeah, it's one of those things I never really thought we would have to deal with, because I mean, I don't ever remember being like that when I was a kid, or know of children who
I didn't know
were that terrified. But apparently my granddad was, according to my mum. Yeah.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
And so who have we got on this week's episode, mate?
So this week we've got Lucy Elliott. She's a recruitment consultant from Conspicuous. We have a really good conversation about the importance of communication, which I think, really with anybody who's a consultant, communication is so key. It's one of those essential skills that you talk about so much. And it's about building relationships. And actually, she has at one point in the episode, she talks about this concept of just being honest and being transparent, and actually, in the long term, that works a lot better than getting a deal or getting a sale, or doing something for short-term gain. Actually, playing the long game actually works out better. I think we see that with a lot of recruitment consultants, especially in the Power Platform and Dynamic space.
Yeah, and I met Lucy in person at the user group. Yeah, she's really lovely, really bubbly, great personality, and I'm really looking forward to listening to her on the show.
Yeah, it's a really good episode. But before we roll that, let's have a word from our sponsor.
Hey, how you doing? Have you heard about the Architects Accelerator course? If not, you definitely should check it out. Let me tell you some more about it. So the Architects Accelerator course is a course that's run by Sean Astrahan. He's based in the US. He's a lovely fellow, really. And yeah, it's basically bridging that gap for solution architects and wannabe solution architects who maybe need to have a bit more of some advanced topics to talk about and advanced things to look into. One of the best bits about the course is how much effort Sean and his team have put into creating a community of vibe around it. He's got lots of integrations working, and you can work out when the next sessions are, have a look at people's intros, discuss technical topics and help out. It's a really, really good community. I'm John Russell from the Sprint Zero podcast, and just wanted to say thank you to Sean and for his continued sponsorship. If you want to find out more about the Accelerator course, please have a look at the link in the episode description.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the almost award-winning Sprint Zero podcast. My name is Mike Gowland, and I'm here with my co-partner rat in crime, John Russell. Say hello, John.
Hello, how you doing? You okay? You alright?
I am good. It's snowing. It's snowing in the south, so that means it's chaos for the rest of the UK.
I haven't got snow.
Have you?
You've
we've had loads.
You've got snow in like Southampton.
Yeah.
Wow, that's ridiculous.
1 centimetre of it.
Yeah. Amazing.
So, today on the Sprint Zero podcast, we have Lucy Elliott. Lucy is a recruitment consultant at Conspicuous, where she helps companies grow by providing the best talent across the dynamic stack. She co-runs a podcast called Keeping Up with the Conspicuous, which is a podcast about recruitment, as well as pushing herself out of her comfort zone. She is also a qualified sports therapist, where she has a passion for helping people with sports injuries, and on the side she does sports therapy for a local rugby club. Welcome to the podcast, Lucy. How are you doing today?
Hi guys, thanks for having me on. Yeah, I'm really good. I'm also freezing because it was snowing up here two days ago, so it's a bit brisk. But yeah, I'm really well, thank you.
Nice. Yeah, thank you very much for coming on. I appreciate it. Do you want to tell us a little bit about your journey, about how you got to where you are today?
Absolutely. I know a lot of people do ask me about my background because they see qualified sports therapist and recruitment consultant, which obviously is very interesting from going from that to now where I am. But long story short, it was a money thing. I think everyone ends up going into recruitment for money, if we're being completely transparent with it. I lived by myself for 3.5 years, and as you can imagine, that gets expensive. And sports therapy, when you're in a clinic, the fluctuation of money can be a little bit difficult. So I think I sat down with my auntie and my mum, and I was like, what am I good at? Like, what else have I got in my locker? And they were like, I think you'd be good with people. Like, if you want money, go into something that you can make commission. Because I wanted to ideally save for a house, which has now happened. So technically,
Today, apparently.
Today, yeah. I don't want to jinx it,
yeah.
but we got an offer accepted today. So let's see.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. So yeah, obviously sports therapy I continue to do currently just on the side with a rugby club, just to keep doing that because it's still a passion of mine. And then, yeah, I got recommended Conspicuous by an ex-uni friend who is Tom, who absolutely dominates the US recruitment side in Conspicuous. And he said, why don't you just have a chat with them so you can learn a bit more about recruitment? And then I ended up here 2.5 years later.
No.
And nice work on the podcast as well. So what made you start that?
Good question. If you want the honest answer, I'll start with that. And that was to give me a break from the actual recruitment.
Okay.
The other answer is I just wanted to try something new and knew it was trending at that time. So I think for me, recruitment can be quite like hard at some points, you know, it can get on top of you a little bit. The daily tasks can be quite demanding. So for me, it was being able to do something that I enjoy, meeting new people and talking to brick walls, because that's what I'm best at. And just having at least an hour a week where I step away from the craziness of recruitment and just have a one-on-one conversation with someone else.
I have to say, I love your honesty on both of those questions, because a lot of people probably would say something slightly different, but you know, I think it's a big thing in it, and I've struggled with it. I'll be honest, but it's a big thing in this country, and I think it's a British thing that people don't talk about money.
Yeah.
And for you as a recruitment consultant, that actually must be really difficult, because how are you supposed to pitch someone if you don't know what they want financially? Does that happen?
Yeah, it does happen. I think because where I'm quite truthful, like if I'm speaking to candidates, I'm always like, because some people will say, oh, like, I'll look for 50K. And then when you start digging, you're like, right, if you're thinking about your bills, if you're thinking about inflation, you're thinking about your family, is that a livable wage? Or are you just saying that because you want a job? And then you start prodding and people sort of open up a little bit more, because I think it's so important. Nothing's bloody cheap, and it's not going to get cheaper. And that's the reality of it. So people say money, oh, it's not the most important factor, but it is one of. So yeah, I don't know. I'm just very open with it, I think.
Yeah, I think that's really good.
Yeah.
Like community as well within Dynamics and Power Platform space is massive. How did you come to it? How did you discover it?
Interesting, really, because obviously I still think I'm quite fresh into my recruitment career. I've only done it 2.5 years, which is still quite junior, I would say, compared to most. And it was always a case that obviously in our company, we've got people that have been there for years. So events and conferences, they've built such a great community. And like I was looking at Nico and Philippa, who are our directors, and then they had thousands of followers on LinkedIn. And I'm a little bit competitive coming from a dancing background. And I'm like, right, well, if they're on 1,000, that's my aim. I'm going to get to 20,000 followers. And it started as LinkedIn and building my LinkedIn to get involved with everyone. And then it came to events and meeting people in person. And there's an element of earning your stripes in a business to be able to attend those, of course, which, I think most people can sort of sit back and just comfortably say they wouldn't go because they're new into the company. But I just sat down and I was like, that's what I want to do. I like meeting people. Can I go? And like, I just kept asking, can I go to this one? It's free. Like, can I go meet people? And it was just a case of putting myself in that area and actually attending to then just start meeting people in person, really.
Yes. Recruit. Yeah. I mean, I have like a. I suppose it's okay to say it. I have a love-hate relationship with recruitment consultants. There are some that are really, really good and obviously care, and then there are some when you make a decision that's not in their favour, turn into your mum that calls you Jonathan all the time. And I just, what would you say is the differentiator between recruitment consultants? What makes you stand out as a really good one?
I think that's a really good question, because there is such a stigma around it still.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it's just that communication. I genuinely want to make a friend out of someone instead of seeing them as just help. And I think there's a big difference between it being transactional and actually wanting to help someone. I think I'm just very honest, and you've probably realized I'm a bit too honest for my own good, but like, I'll say to people, because they'll apply for a job and we get talking, and I'm like, it's not going to tick your boxes of what you're looking for. So I won't just shove CVs out, because I'm like, it's just as important for you. But I think for me, it's just getting to know people at that deeper level. Like my boss has always said, it's like you should be talking to someone, whether it's client or candidate, a mate down the pub. That's how the level you want to get on with people. And I think that's always stuck with me, because I'll always try and have someone's best interest at heart. But it is hard when you've still got so many sharky recruiters about. And I hear it every day, like the horror stories of CVs being sent without consent and not hearing back about anything. Yeah, there's still a lot about, so it is hard to try and push positivity.
One example, I started at Capgemini recently, like 8 weeks ago, something like that, 9 weeks ago. And on my second day, I got a message from a recruiter on LinkedIn saying that there's a job at Capgemini. Would I be interested? Like, why not just? It's just like, just read, just look.
Was it for the job you got as well?
Time. Sorry,
it was for the same role as well, wasn't it?
It was for the same role. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like, no, I mean, and then I called him out on it a bit, and he's like, "Oh yeah, sorry, silly me." Like, I don't know, just like spend an extra 10 seconds, maybe.
Yeah, I think it's hard because a lot of recruiters, especially bigger firms, have a lot of KPIs over their head. And like, you've got to send this many messages out, you've got to get this many interviews. So it's all about volume and pushing stuff out without the quality behind it.
Yeah.
And I think we're quite lucky in our company. We don't have, of course, we've got indicators of if you do this much, you'll get this much in return. We know that. But Rob, our director, has always been very calm with his approach and was just like, quality is always best. So we know what the market's like. This market this year has obviously been tough. So our numbers aren't going to be as good. But if we keep up the quality, even if it's lower numbers, we'll still get success.
So when you say tough, compared to like maybe a couple of years ago where I feel like salaries were majorly inflated.
Yeah.
What's different? What's different at the moment? Is it a supply and demand thing? People are sticking at what they're doing and not moving?
It's a big combination, You've got candidates who are sticking with what they know and not moving. The two main drivers for them staying there's been a lot of redundancies this year, particularly. So obviously it's the going into the unknown of, am I going to be in a stable role or not? And two, not everyone's, sorry, but people's expectations of salary still increasing are there. So they won't move, understandably, for the same or less, but there isn't that much movement in the salary still because they're high, but they've plateaued. But people still want them to be higher because of those expectations from a few years ago. So from that side, on the candidates, and then you've got clients. Obviously, it's been a lot harder to get deals over the line. We know the election, that had big impacts, especially on larger end users. So having the money for projects and to be able to do things is hard. And for us as recruiters, a lot of people want to save money. So they'll do it internally, which is completely fair enough. So it's just been a bit like that this year.
I remember when the recruiter called me Lewis as well. That was funny.
I think you suit a Lewis.
Maybe. I think they may have been trying to direct it at somebody else. But there was I remember just going back to stories of the bad stories we have of recruiters. I remember one phoned me up out the blue, didn't give my number out to anybody from that particular organisation.
Right.
And this recruiter couldn't tell me where he got my number from, which I thought was a little bit weird.
Yeah,
and it freaked me out a little bit, if anything. So there wasn't really.
When you come back to it, like the connection that we have to you is that word consultant, right? It's all about building rapport and trust with people, and actually the longer term relationships that you have with clients or individual candidates, the more mutual beneficial it is for both parties. So, having these really granular KPIs on, you must send so many messages, that totally derides that chance of forming a relationship.
100%. You've got to play the long-term game in this industry, and I think that's been hugely apparent this year. Because I know I might have not had like brilliant results this year where I'm exceeding everything. I've put in groundwork and continue to do everything else I'd usually do, but hopefully next year or the year after, it will do a 360. Like I remember in my first year, when I got onto candidates, one of the first placements I ever got, I was so excited. We were about to sign it all, and then it fell through due to them not being able to pay from Ireland to UK, except we had to pull the offer. Now that was with a candidate who I really got on with, and then obviously I couldn't help him because I had to pull everything away from him. But I stayed in contact with him, made sure, because I didn't have anything else for him at the time, made sure he was going for other opportunities, checking in to see if he secured anything, and he did. Congratulated him. And now a year later, he's one of my best clients that I work for because he's hiring. So things always do, like if you put good into it, it will always come back round, I find.
Yeah. 100%.
And people, and also I think, and I know, like you said, with the stigma of recruitment consultants, I think the ones that are really good really stand out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Lucy, when you signed up to come onto this podcast, you mentioned about imposter syndrome, and it's quite a common topic that we talk about here. How do you overcome it?
That's such a good question because, as you can imagine, it comes up on my podcast all the time as well. Everyone will mention it at least once. So I guess my answers are going to kind of be formed from what I've heard from other people and as well as what I've experienced as well. But I think it's just having trust in yourself and the community. I think one of the biggest things people forget is everyone started from somewhere and no one knows everything. at all. And it's reminding yourself that everyone, even the greatest people in the world, have always made a mistake, but you learn from those mistakes. But for this, I'd say for this specific community, to help you overcome it, you should speak to people and talk to people about their own experiences, because I can guarantee if you turn to someone to your left, they've experienced, if you turn to someone on your right, they've also experienced it. And they'll be able to talk you through their ways of coping with it. And it's just sharing those coping mechanisms. I know when I was sort of speaking, I think it was to Rachel, I can't pronounce her surname. She works for KPMG Malta, had her on my podcast. She was exceptional. She is like the most amazing person. She moved over to Malta, brand new into Dynamics, working for one of the big four. And she's just put herself out there. She'll go to every event. And I was just like, how have you done it? And she was like, well, of course I face imposter syndrome. She was like, but I just remind myself, everyone was in this position. And if I need help, someone will help me. And if I've got something to share that will help someone else, I'll do that. And I think it's just that circle that you just got to keep reminding yourself that you're not the only one that's going to be facing it. Write down small achievable goals for yourself, tick them off, and that will sort of keep your motivation levels high. Push yourself out of your comfort zone. Go to the events. I promise you no one will bite, because they'll turn around and welcome you with a handshake or a hug. I think there's so much you can say about it, but you're in the right community to overcome imposter syndrome, I think.
Do you face imposter syndrome yourself sometimes or not?
I would say that's great. Really good question. I'd probably say I did at the start. When I first attended my in-person conference, which was the Dynamics 365 Power Platform User Group in London. Obviously, for me, when you first meet, I'm a bit of an extrovert, but if you first meet me, I'm like an introverted extrovert. So it takes me a little bit of time to warm up to people. And I think the reason I got imposter syndrome was because, like, what am I to know about Dynamics? I'm a recruitment consultant. No one wants to hear that a recruitment consultant is there, because they just think you're going to poach jobs or talk to clients to try and get jobs or push people around. Like, they hear recruitment consultant and people are like, but for me, it was reminding myself that I am a recruitment consultant. I shouldn't shy away from that, but also it's because I want to learn. Like, I had no interest in the Dynamics 365 industry when I first went into recruitment. I didn't know what it was. Couldn't even tell you about the technologies. Couldn't tell you anything. If you ask me now, I'm no solution architect, but like, I can definitely understand terminology, understand the modules, understand how flows go into each other. There's a lot to it, but that stems from, I'm a user of Dynamics. So our CRM system is D365. We've got our finance lady, it's D365 Business Central. So for me, it was just the way I overcome it was thinking, actually, I can have a conversation to people to say, I'm a user, I want to learn.
Yeah.
And yet, like, now I do want to learn. Like, I want to learn more, because it helps when I'm having conversations with people that before I would have been like, what's customer engagement? Like, what's Power Platform? That now I can actually have an open conversation about it. And yeah, it just helped massively. So it's just reminding myself, like, no, you have a place here. People will say hello to you still, but
what about maybe presenting at a user group? Is that, not sure about that one.
So
hey, that's not a bad idea.
Well, hold on.
Put a session in for one overseas conference next year. So I've put forward a session. Whether it gets accepted or not, we're waiting. But I think I'm just going to put myself out there, because people keep telling me I've got stuff to say that people would want to hear, which sort of gave me the encouragement. Like, you've got Chris Huntingford, James Connolly, everyone like that is always like, come on, Lucy. Like, you've got stuff to say, you're doing a good job. And it's just that reassurance from everyone in the community to do it. So yeah, maybe
I think that whole honesty angle is something that I think would resonate with a lot of people. I think it's really good how I think you're quite a direct person as well, which I quite like too. Yeah.
Can you share with us what the session would be about if it gets accepted, or are we keeping that under wraps?
No, I could talk about it. If it doesn't get accepted, I can always put it forward to a different conference that might be interested in it. But I think for me, what people wanted to know was more about your personal branding and networking, how to become involved in the community. I think because if you've heard of the Scottish user group, I'd done an online seminar for them, and it was that sort of said to me, right, Lucy, this is what we want to know about. Like, how do you actually get involved? How have you grown your network to where I'm at now? Like, how do you stand out amongst other candidates? Like, all these little bits. So it's sort of based around that. I won't give the title away, but it's based around little things like that, and just giving people that voice to be like, right, what can I do? What can I change? And then hopefully I'll be able to help them.
Nice.
That sounds good.
Really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing that we've been looking at the moment. Me and Mike is trying to work out how we can reach. Obviously, we've got like our core power platform kind of audience, but we also want to kind of appeal to people that want to come into the industry, who maybe are like career switchers, or people who are interested in the power platform or dynamics and working out how to go from client side to consultancy side. So yeah, it's an interesting conundrum to try and work out.
Trial and error, that's all I can say. You'll always learn.
So I don't know, I'm not sure if you've listened to the podcast before, but we've got a section called Uncomfortable Corner. Uncomfortable Corner. Look at that. I just love how basic it is.
Builds the suspense.
It's so on brand. It's amazing. So, Lucy, when was the last time you felt uncomfortable in or outside of work? And can you explain how you felt, how you got through it, and what did you learn from yourself that you could apply maybe next time?
I'd probably say I don't tend to feel too uncomfortable as a person, but I think the last time I sort of felt that feeling was when I first joined Conspicuous. And I think it was more of a case, obviously, I didn't know the people very well. First impressions were very good, but I didn't know them. And obviously, everyone sort of came from a recruitment background before, or they'd been in it for quite a while, very experienced, great people. And I just had sort of different views of how to do things, and maybe a little bit more of a modern approach. And I remember like going into it, and obviously I could do the basic stuff. I can send emails and talk to people on the phone, send people out. But I was like, what else can I do differently? And it all loops back around to me just being me and thinking of random ideas like the podcast, or the fact that I wanted to go to conferences and push myself out, even though I was a complete junior. It was just that feeling uncomfortable of what's the response I'm going to get if I say this stuff, because I knew them, but you never know, like when a business is sort of running the same way and someone's sort of coming in like, can I try this? And I only felt uncomfortable just before asking that question, and then that is it, because my company literally are fab, and they just open any wacky idea with open arms. Like, if you want to do that, bloody try it. Like, off you go. Like, let's see what you can do from it. So I think, whether you can call that uncomfortable, because it probably was just the build up to it. But as soon as I'd sort of put it out there that actually, no, I want to try this, and it's just being scared of the reaction. Like, are they going to let me? Are they going to think, what are you doing? Sit back down. Like, it's probably that.
So was it the reaction of your employer of you going off and doing this podcast? What about actually getting the podcast out there as well and putting it in front of people?
Do you know what? I wasn't scared to start with. I had no nerves about it. It was me and Tyler. We started doing it where it was just me and her, and we were talking about recruitment. We were talking about different things that us two were bouncing each other off. And then it's when it got serious, and Rob was like, right, what are you doing with this podcast? Where's the direction of it? And when it started getting a little bit sort of structured, that I was a bit more nervous about doing it, because I was like,
that's why we're not nervous, because this is
but like, it's got a little bit more serious now. And when we turned to the point where we were going to make it client focused, and sort of just people in the industry focused instead of me and Tyler, because Tyler sadly left the business to do great things, and it was just me, and they were like, are you sure you want to carry on doing it? And I was like, yes, like, let's carry on. So when it was just me, and when it started growing, and I was like, okay, this is good, like, I can speak to people in the industry. It's going well. And then when my director was like, right, I think we need to start upping it to once a week, and then the pressure of I've got to fill every single week, like that first feeling was like, oh my God, like, are people going to enjoy watching it? Like, am I going to ask people the right questions in the industry? Are they going to think I'm an idiot if I'm not asking the right stuff? Like, and do you know what? Few ones in, absolutely fine. It's amazing. It's so good.
How do you do you kind of do all the scheduling yourself and all of that?
Yeah, so I get the people on, and we sort of divided it now into UK and US. So Alex, my co-host, now he'll talk to the US people because he specializes in there. But we've got an amazing marketing lady called Helena. People don't see much of her. She's behind the scenes, and she is honestly an angel sent from above. Huge respect for her. She came into us doing a podcast literally off the back of nothing, no technologies, just doing what we can. And she's made it such a streamlined process, so seamless. Like, we send feedback after each podcast, and we've not had any negativity yet about the process of it, and everyone's saying they felt comfortable, and that's all I could ask for, because I don't want it to be like, obviously you probably feel the same, you don't want it to feel as though it's a chore for people to come on and speak to you. You want it to be seamless and them enjoy it and just feel like they're having a chat.
The moment it feels like a job interview, we've failed as podcasters.
Absolutely. But it is like, it's finding that fine line, isn't it, of like, am I doing it right? And no one really knows. It's a podcast, everyone's different. But yeah, I think it's great having Helena sort of formalize everything and make sure
Sounds like we
emails
need
and everything is
Helena. No offense,
yeah.
Mike. I mean, our logo and all that stuff is absolutely banging. I think that the hardest bit I find is the scheduling. That's because I have an absolute mental block when it comes with dates. Like, we've got it all automated, most of it inside like a model driven app.
Amazing.
And Power Automate and all that kind of stuff. But the scheduling is still the one that's kind of a bit manual.
Yeah.
So fair play to Helena.
It's
yourself,
hard.
of course.
Yeah, it is a group effort, and like, so we're now booked up until June 2025 every single week, which is nuts. But and then it's like you're booking these people in, and they're all the way in June. So you're like, right, when are we going to touch base with them? Like, when's the right time to sort of remind them to come on? Because if they've forgotten, then if you have a week where it's not, because we go live on LinkedIn, so it's like no one's there.
Right.
So there's a bit more pressure of overhead. So, touch wood. This is a wood table. Touch wood. No hiccups yet.
You prefer? I mean, have you done it like we do it, where we pre-record and then release on a weekly basis? Would you think about doing that, or do you think it works for you that you go live on LinkedIn at a certain time?
So I don't know whether I should say this. Helena might give me a slap, but there are some weeks that are pre-recorded, but they go out as live.
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Only because for certain guests, if they've had a major hiccup and they're like, oh, I can't attend on the Thursday, we're like, right, that's fine. Let's do it this day when we'll release it. And you just do the whole, if there's any comments, like, and if we can't get back to them, because it's obviously pre-recorded, we go back after. But I think I prefer live. Obviously, you've got the risk of people saying stuff and then them panicking and being like, oh, we need to get rid of it, and they can't. That hasn't happened yet. I think I just like the interaction of it, because people can comment, and then it might take someone, like, we can then ask the person there and then. But I wouldn't say it's made too much of a difference either way. I don't know if I have a preference, so to say.
Maybe, Mike, we do a Sprint Zero live episode on LinkedIn.
You should.
You know what? We actually have the facility to go live on LinkedIn when we record an episode.
Yeah, you should.
Did you know that?
No, I didn't know that. No.
We can go live on Twitch, LinkedIn,
wow,
Facebook, the YouTubes. I think most of them, actually, we can.
I mean, I think most of, like you say, that would be my concern, Lucy, is that we do, after we've recorded with people, we normally say, like, if you do want to have a look at the recording before it goes out, you're more than welcome to. I suppose
we don't care when we make a mistake, John, do we? It always gets left in post.
Exactly.
It makes it authentic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. They're the best bits. And unless you're Carl Cookson,
What a filthy mouth that man has. Jesus. Be careful.
He swore about 1 billion times at the end.
Yeah. Like, some of the stuff that came out of his mouth as well.
I love Carl, but yeah.
I'll never get that out of my mind. No.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I mean, it's been a really great chat, Lucy. I really appreciate you coming on, and like I said from the off, like really appreciate your honesty on in recruitment and everything that you're doing. And thank you very much for joining us today. We'll put your links to LinkedIn and your podcast in the show notes. And if there are any other links that we've mentioned, then they will also be there too. Music today was provided by Kenright Fit. I don't know why I have to do that every time, but yeah, you can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you'll also find in this episode's show notes. Additional music used in this episode is credited in the show notes too. Be sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss the next episode. Subscribe on YouTube as well, which hopefully there will be like a thing down there.
Click here. Click here.
Yeah. We would also really appreciate it if you could give us a follow on LinkedIn and on YouTube. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you very much. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been Mike Gowland. Say goodbye, Mike.
Goodbye, Mike.
Lucy Elliott. Say goodbye, Lucy.
Thank you very much, guys. See you later.
And I'm John. And we'll see you on the next episode of Sprint Zero. Thanks.
Love you, John.
Love you too, Mike. Love you, Lucy.
Love you, guys.
Lucy.